Okay, so you get to join me for my next portion of my personal religious trauma history while I'm putting on my face. You're very welcome. Okay, so I'm about 20. I left the piece of shit. I got on a fucking plane. I had my kid. I had 37 cents in my wallet. I had $10,000 worth of debt that the bastard had run up in my name. I'm all of 21. I don't know a fucking thing. I know absolutely nothing. I grew up in a teeny tiny town. Hold on. Yeah, okay. 41 seconds in and my kid comes in. Yeah. So I grew up in a teeny tiny small little town in Central Florida. So I boarded a plane and I flew out to the big old city of Phoenix, Arizona. I was going to move in with a family member, and since this family member and I are not on good terms, I'm going to leave it at a family member. I moved in with a family member, and I did not know them. I'd never been to a city. Well, that's not true. I had been to plenty of cities. I just hadn't driven in a city. I didn't know anything. I was not taught a damn thing as a kid. So I moved to this city, and the deal was I was going to take care of my aging grandparents. Now, there is a lot more to the story than that, but it's not relevant to this video, so I'm going to leave it alone. So anyway, I moved in with my family member, and I was excited because they had it all above board. I mean, they had the perfect resume. He was in a decent position in his work, and she was the secretary, or a secretary at their child's school, which was a Christian school. They actually went to 2 services on Sundays. One was the small church that the child's school was a part of, and the other one was a very large church. I'm not going to say the names of any of these churches, but I was told with great boasting that it was the most financially secure church in the country. Big fucking deal. But okay. So I start going to that church and to the smaller church along with them. And I start going to a Christian counselor. It was not a counselor. Yeah, I did go see a counselor, come to think of it. But there was a recovery group for abused women that I started going to. So I went to that, and for a little bit, everything was fine. Okay. And then some covers started coming off, so to speak. It turns out it was all very, very surface, and it was all about the image of XYZ, of being the good, properly perfect Christian family. Now remember, these are family members, but I don't know them. This family member had a sibling, his brother, who had, they were a member of the Church of Christ. Church of Christ. And in being a member of the Church of Christ, and this was a very I can say that broadly because it is a denomination, not a specific church. The Church of Christ was extremely legalistic. And because this church, when they would travel, they had to basically get permission from their pastor or whatever the leader was called before they left. They had to go to specific churches while they were gone that the pastor had chosen for them, where they could and could not go. Since the family member was the brother of the one that I moved in with, and mind you, they hated each other. I mean, they straight up fucking hated each other. They had, hold on, I'm getting messages. So they had, the one that I moved in with had been divorced before, and the other one, because of the Church of Christ dogma that they subscribed to, didn't come to the wedding and did not recognize that this person had a second wife, because according to them, they had not been divorced under God's law. Okay. So, that's kind of interesting right there. Like I said, very legalistic. So, they had everything on the surface. And what was under the surface was snide and demeaning, and it was dark in a lot of ways. Not dark as in there's something really wrong here. Dark as in their attitudes and their actions and their mentalities of things simply did not align with the talk that they were talking. They would... Kid. They walked their talk, but they didn't mean a word of it, because it was all entirely show. There was nothing about it that was truly coming from the heart. It was entirely perception of other people. That's fucked up. So anyway, I'm going to this recovery group of sorts. I'm going to this counselor. I'm going to this church. I also had to work while I was in the midst of all this. You know, obviously because I have a child that I have to take care of. It became very apparent pretty quickly that I wasn't good enough for them. I wasn't one of them. So it was suggested / demanded that I move in with my grandparents. Okay. Because, and the cover story was, it would be easier if I were there taking care of them. Okay, we'll go with that. So I moved in with my aging grandparents, and they actually both had cancer. My grandmother was terminal, and my grandfather was not. But he was not in a position that he was able to take care of her. So I was expected to cook and clean and do the grocery shopping, take care of my kid, of course, that's a given. I was to go to work. The house was to be spotless at all times. Everything was to be above board and looking perfect all the way around. Now, this is Arizona. You have people coming in and going all the time because they had been, according to the bragging rights, pillars of the little church that they had started, which had grown into a fairly decent sized church. So everyone's going to different places. Okay, that's fine. So, but it was all basically the same belief structure. It was categorized as non-denominational, but it was basically non-denominational Baptist. So anywho, they put a lot of expectations on me. Now, I was actually working in Scottsdale instead of Phoenix. I was a waitress, which meant my hours were all over the place, and it's Scottsdale to Phoenix, so that traffic can be really interesting sometimes. So I was expected to be there at all times, yet I was expected to be at work. The babysitter that I had for my child was never good enough. I was expected to be there to take care of her, but I was supposed to also be at work. It was a no-win. No matter what it was a no-win. Now, because my grandparents were pretty popular in their community, and they had money, yes, they had money, they had a lot of people coming in and out all the time. This is an extremely stressful thing because people would come out, they don't give a flying fuck in order to try to help take care of a house or to do anything like that. What they would do is they would come in and trash it, and then I would end up in trouble for it. And so, basically, I was supposed to be 6 people at the same time. I was supposed to be in 8 places at the same time. I would go to the grocery store and do the grocery shopping, and then I would get in trouble for having spent the money on the stuff that I was told to buy. So, okay, this is fabulous family, right? This is all just touching. All in the name of Jesus, of course. So, in the midst of all this, I had started dating somebody. And the person that I was dating drove a motorcycle. He was a cook at the restaurant that I worked at. He had tattoos. He did not go to a church. So when I let them know that I had started dating this guy, boy, did the shitstorm come down. The first thing that the original family member that I moved in with said was, "Let's see how they feel about church." A little bit of backstory on this particular individual. They had played a trumpet in the orchestra at this mega church that they attended. And at this mega church, there was over 10,000 people that attended every Sunday. So they had 5 separate services. And this individual would play the trumpet in the orchestra. However, he didn't stay for any of the services, usually. He'd go up on stage, he'd play his trumpet, blow his horn, and then he'd go off to breakfast with his buddies. They weren't staying. Once I went to church with him and we were running slightly late, and he goes, "Oh, I hope we can get a good seat." The church has a literal campus. It's big enough to be like a college campus. There were monitors all over the damn place. There were 5 services a day. The auditorium sat thousands of people. And he's worried about getting a good seat. It was disgusting. Okay, so it's hard to go through all this stuff and get into specifics of this and that. One, because it was a long time ago, although I remember it very, very well. And two, because this shit bothers me. You know, to this day, it makes me want to chew through steel. So anyway, I started dating this guy. This did not go over well at all with my recovery group, with my shrink, or with the people I was living with, or with my grandparents. I was 22 at this point. I was 21 when I moved out there. I turned 22. Okay. They had a baptism. I went all in when I moved out because everything looked like it was so perfect when I first went out there that I went all in. I gave it everything I had. I gave it my whole heart. So when there was going to be a baptism coming up, I took the classes and I decided to be baptized. I was expecting it to be a spiritual experience, a very close coming to God thing, because that's what I was looking for. Is I was looking for true spirituality, true connection to the divine, true Christianity. It was a fucking joke. Yeah, of course you get a certificate, and that's about the only thing that you get out of it, because the baptismal is sitting up on the stage behind the stage itself. Okay, so it's like built into the wall. And they had these like 5-foot screens, and they had several of them all over the place. Okay, so you get up there, and instead of this being a spiritual connection, it was nothing but a fucking show. It was your face with a microphone shoved into it being broadcast out onto these giant screens. That had nothing to do with God. That had nothing to do with any kind of connection or spirituality. Maybe it is for some people, but it most definitely was not for me. So I was baptized, okay. And later, so this is all over the course of probably 4 months that all this went down. Let's see. End of August till mid-February. August, September, October, November, December, January, February. 6 months. Okay. So, again, there's a whole lot more to all of this that I'm not getting into. It's not relevant. The relationship with my family was really going downhill. I got a lot of shit attitude towards my daughter. She was 2 at the time. I specifically remember when she had a cold and she was just looking for some comfort. So she went up to this family member, held her little arms up, picked me up. She just wanted comfort. Don't touch me, I can't get your germs. This is supposed to be a very close relation to my daughter. Let the little children come unto me, and do not forbid them, for such is the kingdom of heaven. So I had, because a lot of shit was really twisted and wrong in a lot of very ugly ways, I had decided that I was going to move out. And I had spent the night over at my boyfriend's house. And I had asked him to come back to the original house, or no, to my grandparents' house with me in the morning. I just had this feeling something wasn't right. So he did. And I walk in, and I see the child, the child of the people that I had moved in with. He's just kind of like side-eyeing me, and he's super quiet. He was 11. It has nothing to do with him. So he's kind of side-eyeing me. He's super quiet. And there's just obviously some shit is wrong. Something's going down here. They were in the backyard doing work. Now, my grandmother had already died at this point. She died at the beginning of December. And let's see, and this was mid-February, roughly around the 17th, if I recall correctly. So I walk back, and everyone's just kind of storming around. And I mean, there is serious tension in the air. Something's not right. So I finally said, someone want to tell me what's going on? And the man that I had moved in with, he had the wife and the kid, he goes, "You're through." I'm through. You slept with that son of a bitch. I'm 22. I've already paid a fucking mortgage. I've graduated high school. I have a child. I had just come out of a 4-year terrible relationship. It's not like I was a virgin to begin with. You slept with that son of a bitch. I'm like, what the fuck? Are you serious? Oh, I forgot. Another time I had stood up and the whole family was in the living room at my grandparents' house and my lighter fell out of my pocket. And the main guy was like, "You're smoking." String me the fuck up, so what? This has nothing to do with you. I'm not shoving a cigarette in your mouth. Wasn't smoking at the house. Had nothing to do with anybody. But that's beside the point. So this dude goes on a fucking rampage, basically telling me all about what a whore I am, what a piece of shit I am, and ready for this one? And you were baptized. You have disgraced your grandmother's memory. What the fuck were you doing for the 17 years that you were single while you were blowing your fucking horn in your precious church on a Saturday night before you went in to blow your horn? So I was told that I could pack my shit and hit the road, hit the streets, because they couldn't have a whore like me in the house. For how disgraceful I was. Bye, bitch. I packed my shit. Some of it I did not get at the time, and I said I would come back to get it. When I went back to get it, I found that there was some very valuable, very, very valuable pieces of jewelry that my grandmother had left to me that she specifically saved. Now, my grandmother didn't know me. I was 18 before I ever met them. These good Christians stole my jewelry. Stole my jewelry. So, with the love of Christ on their lips, they put me and a 2-year-old child out on the street. Yeah. So that was a lot of fun. Remember, the counselor and the recovery group all had a shit fit that I was even dating. It wasn't a terribly serious relationship. We did stay together for about 2 years. And then for about 2 years after that, we were kind of friends. But that's all that ever turned into. Which is totally fine. And that fucker's in prison now. Yeah. Why? Kitty videos. Did not know that at the time. So, yeah. So there's that lovely little experience. It was great fun. Great, great fun. So here I am, alone in this massive city, knowing nothing, no money, no education, no connections, don't know anybody. On the street with a 2-year-old. And again, I am not even going to get into the shitstorm that came down because of all that. It's irrelevant to these purposes of this little series that I'm doing. Okay. Let's just say shit fucked off really, really, really bad. And anyway, I'm really having trouble with this eyelash right now. Sorry, you gotta bear with me. Yeah, so please do tell me about the love of Jesus. Anyway, as a result of all of this, my kid ended up staying with my mother back in Florida for several years. Again, very, very long story, not relevant, but yeah. Now when my kid ended up back in Florida, all of a sudden they decided to become good Catholics again. My kid was put into a Catholic school. I just found this out last week. My kid was baptized Catholic. Good Catholics, following all the good rules. Let's just say shit went south. Okay, so stepping back, bypassing that entire saga of shit, I am now alone in Phoenix. My then boyfriend's attitude towards any kind of religion was, I would rather scrub toilets in hell than bow knee to a god. Okay. Again, not a thing that needs to be gotten into. But I tried finding a church. Because again, I am looking for spirituality. I'm looking for something that mattered. So I went to a Lutheran church a couple of times that was, it was actually fairly close to my apartment. Because I did get on my feet, and, you know, it was fucking hard. And I spent about 5 years working 2 jobs. I worked 7 days a week. There would be months and months and months that I wouldn't have a day off at all because I had an office job at the time. I got a pretty good job in an office, working in social services. And then at night, I would wait tables. Hold on just a minute. My kid just started blaring the TV really loud. I could barely hear myself thinking he's a floor away. Anyway, so I waited tables at night and I worked during the day. So basically, I was up at 5 in the morning and I would get dressed. I'd have to be out the door by 6 for the commute. I'd come home. I got off at 3:30, so I'd get home about 4:30 because of where I lived. I had moved over to Chandler, and I worked in Central Phoenix. And then I'd have to drive back, and I worked at a restaurant that was around the corner from where I lived. I had a couple of roommates. I lived in a pretty nice neighborhood, good house. And I would work pretty much from 5 until 11 or 12 every night. So this went on for a long, long time. Okay, now in the meantime of all of this, I am extremely depressed. I mean, exquisitely, extremely depressed. Because I don't have my kid, and I could not make enough money. I could not make ends meet. And I had no idea at the time that it was even possible to have any kind of state help. If I had known any of the stuff that I knew, my kid never would have ended up with my parents in Florida. I was raised being told all the horrors of welfare trash. So absolutely nothing I did worked. I was extremely depressed. My boyfriend had broken up with me. I ended up in the hospital a couple of times. It was fucking rough. I mean, this was hard, hard, hard. You know, I tried to get into school. I tried to get into, I was going to go in for being massage therapy, Arizona School of Massage Therapy. And I couldn't get the loan because my parents wouldn't send them their tax returns. Even though it was all on me, I was still at the age where I needed the tax returns from my parents and they wouldn't send them. I mean, I'm extremely depressed. Extremely depressed. I'm honestly, I'm suicidal. Okay. I ended up in the hospital for several days, a couple different times. Never really understood why. What the word was that I got from my internist, or not the internist, but at the hospital, was, we know there's something wrong with your heart, but we don't know what it is. We know there's something wrong with your thyroid, but we don't know what it is. By the way, your liver's shutting down. I have to see an internist, and she had me on this fuck ton of medication. And I was just tired of it. And I asked her what would happen if I got off my medication. And she said, well, I'll tell you what, I have a patient just like you. And she decided to get off of her meds, and she's on a ventilator. I could never get off my meds. I was told I'll never have another child. I will never have, I wouldn't be able to get pregnant. If I was able to get pregnant, I would most likely have a miscarriage. If I did manage to carry the baby would be retarded. The baby would be have developmental problems. Baby would have physical problems, the whole nine. That there was just no way that I was ever going to have a healthy child. Now, do the math on this and figure out how bad this sucked. Okay. In the meantime, I'm still searching for God in the middle of all this. Okay, I'm still trying to make my connections. My witchy side is coming up. It never left me. But again, in the world of no internet, there was not such a thing as being able to look stuff up. Okay. So I said, fuck it. I'm done. And I went off my meds. Nothing happened. I figured that would off me. Nothing happened. Now, this is simultaneously going on with some other stuff that I'm going to get to in a minute. But I went off my meds, and so nothing happened, and I figured, all right, fine. I'm just going to... I didn't eat. I ate... I always like to liken it to the equivalent of a Walmart pizza a day. So I survived on that and coffee and a lot of alcohol. Because when I wasn't at work, I was at a club. And I was going home with whoever the fuck I could. Or bringing them back to my place or whatever. I was absolutely suicidal. I did not give a flying fuck about anything anymore because none of this was working. Nothing was working. I'm not finding God. I have no family. I'm pretty much dead and done. This isn't working. So my next step, now I never used, for a lot of different reasons that are irrelevant, I never used. And I don't do well with pot. Of course, nothing was legal at the time. But I figured my next step was going to be an overly loaded heroin needle, and I was just going to take a nap. And then, consequences be damned, because what the fuck difference did it make? The only reason that I didn't actually off myself at the time, where did I put my water bottle? There it is. Was because the boyfriend that I had been seeing wanted to go over to a friend of his house, and they were just gonna there was gonna be a couple of people there and just kind of hang out because she had had surgery, so we were just gonna sit around and play video games and whatnot, and see how life went for the night. So we get over there, and he says, oh, well, Melissa's gonna be there. Well, who the hell is Melissa? I don't know anybody. So I get over there. Oh, his best friend was there. Our friend CJ was there. She was the one that had surgery. And Melissa's there, and she's sitting in a corner. Just like so. Looking grumpy as all fuck. And she had there we go. I was very shy, scared, I guess. I mean, I didn't know anybody. So what do you do when you're in a situation where you don't know anybody? So I said, okay, I'm going to go out to smoke. She said, oh, you smoke? I'll come with you. So she went out, and we actually sat on the steps and we talked for 2 hours probably, and just sitting and chit-chatting. And, you know, come to find out, she just has that resting bitch appearance. She still does. So she had asked me if I wanted to go to church with her in the morning. It was a Saturday night that we went over. I was like, sure. So she's Baptist, so we went to church. That didn't do anything for me, but okay, I went with her. And after that, she said, okay, we're going to lunch. So we went to lunch. She said, Mom's going to be there. So her mom was there. And after that, she said, we're going to a movie. So we went and saw Scooby-Doo. It was the first live-action Scooby-Doo movie that had come out. So we went and did that. And it was within 2 weeks. She said, hey, you want to come to Denver with me? I need to move my sister back down to Phoenix. Sure. And from there, that was all she wrote. Melissa and Jessica adopted me, basically. This is over 20 years ago. So they adopted me, and I had a shoulder to cry on, and I had a family. I had a place to be for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I had people that checked in with me, and they cared what happened to me, and they were there. And they were the only bright spot that I had in my life. And they're my sisters. They're saviors, you know. They're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful people. And they're still very much in my life. You know, we live far apart now. They just moved down to Oklahoma from New Mexico. We were down there last year helping Jessica move again from Utah to New Mexico, and then they ended up buying a house and moved to they've all moved together to Oklahoma because Jessica's husband Dave had died. And I mean, there's just so many ways that they have been there for me, that they have been my family. That's for them. Dave had a triquetra tattooed on his left calf. The triquetra is for Dave. My sister Jessica has a thing for hearts, so the tree of life is in the shape of a heart. My husband has a huge triquetra on his shoulder for them. I mean, they saved my fucking life. I don't agree with Melissa's faith. She's very much in favor of being told she's going to hell. She loves it, gives her the warm fuzzy. She's a door-knocking Baptist. But they walked out what Christ was supposed to be in so many ways. And that mattered. But my adopted mom, Lisa, had said something to me in the middle of all this shit when it was going down. You know, she knew all the stuff that was happening, and she said to me, Marie, that's my name, by the way, God must really have a plan for you. And I thought, well, fuck that. God has a plan for me. I'm down on my knees, wailing alone in my apartment. Nothing works. I see God nowhere. And God has a plan for me. That really sent me into a spiral. That was the wrong thing to say at the wrong time. She meant well by it. She didn't mean anything negative by it at all. But it hit me wrong. So it was fucking hard. Religious appearance put me and a 2-year-old kid on the streets. No family, nothing. I had nothing. And it damn near killed me. All because of doctrine. That's long enough for right now. It bothers me. It makes me very upset when I have to go back into this shit. So I'm going to let it go for right now. When I come back another time, we will talk about my Mormon and Lutheran experiences. Religion can be very deadly. Can be very, very fucking deadly. And I got really, really lucky. So if you're watching this and you are in complete and utter disagreement with everything I'm saying, that's fine. It's totally cool. You do you. But please remember that your words have an impact on people. The shit you say hurts. And it matters. And when you have people, all kinds of people, human beings that are taking themselves to another plane of existence and living on this one in complete and utter pain and depression based off of religion and scarred literally for life because of words you say, please think very carefully about what you're saying and how you're saying it. Time, place, audience. Because words have serious, serious power. And when they are spoken, they matter. And when they're spoken out of righteous indignation, you have no idea the ripple effects that you can cause. And none of that is the love of Jesus. None of it. So, I will see you again soon.